They say that behind every great man, there is an even greater woman. But what happens when a man forgets not only his wife's name, but also her face? Welcome to the channel. And today, we will tell you a story of a man who couldn't recognize his own wife. Could this be possible? What was it all about? Let's find out in today's episode. Henry loved his wife with all his heart. He would have called her his better half. They had been together for more than 25 years and were still going strong. The couple had 2 beautiful children and a loving pet dog. Henry was very proud of his family and often boasted about them at work. But lately, something has been bothering him. He couldn't remember his wife's name. It wasn't something he could recall in one swift motion like the multiplication table. His mind would desperately try to retrieve the forgotten piece of information, but then it would come up blank. This terrified Henry because he didn't want to admit that he might be suffering from some kind of early onset dementia. He knew that if his wife found out, she would feel humiliated. She would think that her husband had lost his mind. It was bad enough that he kept forgetting where he left things. If his wife also felt that he was losing his marbles, their marriage would fall apart. So Henry hid his struggle with memory loss from his wife. He thought he could manage on his own. But as time went by, his condition became worse. He started having trouble recognizing familiar faces, including his wife's. One evening, Henry came home from work and saw his wife standing in the kitchen. He couldn't recognize her. He said, "Who are you?" Horrified by his own words, his wife replied, "I'm your wife." But Henry was adamant. He claimed that he didn't know her. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. "I don't know you." Tears streamed down his wife's face as she tried to convince him that they were married. But Henry couldn't understand why she was so upset. He thought she was just an intruder, who had somehow managed to sneak into his house. He called the police, who arrived promptly. They asked Henry to explain the situation, but he couldn't. All he could say was that he didn't know the woman and that he wanted her gone. The officers were sympathetic, but they had to do their job. "I think the woman I called the police on might be my wife." The operator dispatched a patrol car to Henry's house, but by the time the officers arrived, it was too late. The woman was gone. Henry was devastated. He had lost his wife, but he didn't know it yet. He waited anxiously for the morning to come so he could go to the police station and find out what had happened to the woman. When he got there, he learned that she had been released. She asked Henry if he was sure he wasn't joking, but he assured her that he was serious. "What should I do?" he asked. "I think you need to see a doctor," she said. "You might be suffering from some kind of memory loss or dementia." Henry was afraid to hear that, but he knew Emma was right. He made an appointment with his doctor, who ran some tests and gave him a clean bill of health. "You're as sharp as a tack," the doctor said. "There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to get more sleep." Henry thanked the doctor and went home. Decided to follow the doctor's advice and try to get more rest. But as soon as he got home, he forgot all about his appointment with the doctor. He couldn't remember if he had been to the doctor in the first place. This worried him. He knew something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. As days turned into weeks, Henry's condition worsened. He couldn't remember anything. He couldn't even remember his own name. One day, while going through his late wife's belongings, he came across a box labeled case files. Curious, he opened the box and found a stack of folders. Each folder contained information about a different case his wife had worked on as a lawyer. Henry didn't know much about his wife's work, but he was curious to learn more about it. So he started going through the case files. As he read through the documents, he began to remember things about his wife that he had long forgotten. He remembered how passionate she was about justice. He remembered how fiercely protective she was of those she cared about. Most importantly, he remembered her name. It all came back to him in a flash. Her name was Emma. Henry was so happy that he let out a yell. He couldn't believe he had forgotten his own wife's name, but he was also relieved to have it back. It was like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He felt like he could finally start to move on from what had happened to her. Henry went to see his wife's grave and told her everything. He told her about how he had forgotten her name and how he had called the police on her. He told her how much he loved her and how sorry he was for what had happened. He stayed at the cemetery for hours, talking to his wife's grave. Felt like she was listening to him, and it made him feel better. In the end, Henry knew that his wife had forgiven him, could feel it in his heart. He knew that she had moved on and that she was happy for him. Henry went back home, feeling lighter than he had in a long time. He decided that he was going to make the most of the time he had left. He didn't know how much time he had, but he knew that he didn't want to waste it. He started by reaching out to his friends and family, told them about what had happened to him, and they were very supportive. They helped him through his difficult time, and they were patient with him when he forgot things. Henry also started seeing a therapist who specialized in helping people with memory loss. The therapist taught Henry coping mechanisms that helped him deal with his condition. Henry was determined to live his life to the fullest, despite his condition. He took up painting as a new hobby, and he even traveled to Europe. He didn't let his condition define him. Instead, he embraced it and used it to make him stronger. Many years passed, and Henry grew old, but his spirit was never broken. He never gave up hope that he would one day be reunited with his wife. And in the end, he was right. When Henry died, he was greeted by his wife at the pearly gates. "I've been waiting for you," she said with a smile. Henry couldn't believe his eyes. He had finally found his way back to her. The two spent eternity together, reunited at last. We hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.